Opening. Welcome to this summary of deep work by Cal Newport. In this audiobook, we'll explore why the ability to focus intensely has become both increasingly rare and increasingly valuable in our economy, and how you can cultivate this skill to thrive professionally. This summary is divided into two main parts. First, we'll examine the idea of deep work and why it matters. Then, we'll cover the 4 rules that will help you make deep work a regular part of your daily life. Let's begin. Part 1, the idea. Chapter 1, Deep work is valuable. The world of intelligent machines is upon us. As the gap between human abilities and machine abilities narrows, we will increasingly find ourselves at risk of becoming irrelevant. However, 3 groups of people are poised to succeed in this new world. First, those who are good at working with intelligent machines. Second, superstar performers in any field. And third, owners of capital, or those with access to it. To become a member of one of the first 2 groups, you need 2 core abilities. Number 1, the ability to quickly master hard things. And number 2, the ability to produce at an elite level, in terms of both quality and speed. Both of these core abilities depend on your ability to perform deep work. Learning in deep work. To learn requires intense concentration. It requires what performance psychology professor K. Anders Ericsson refers to as deliberate practice, where you practice with continuous feedback for a sustained period in the absence of distraction, to gain expert skills. Deliberate practice works because, by practicing a particular skill repeatedly, you are forcing a particular circuit or neural pathway to fire continuously. This triggers cells called oligodendrocytes to wrap layers of myelin around neurons. Myelin is a layer of fatty tissue that grows around neurons, acting like an insulator, allowing the cells to fire faster and cleaner, thus cementing the skill. To be great at something is to be well myelinated. You need to focus intensely while avoiding distraction because this is the only way to isolate the relevant neural circuit enough to trigger useful myelination. In contrast, if you try to master a new skill with distractions available, say, with an open Facebook feed, you are firing too many circuits simultaneously and haphazardly to isolate the group of neurons you want to actually strengthen. Producing in deep work. The batching of hard but important intellectual work into long, uninterrupted stretches is key to high productivity. The law of productivity may thus be stated as: high-quality work produced equals time spent multiplied by intensity of focus. The reason why batching matters is because of something called attention residue. When you switch from some task A to another task B, your attention doesn't immediately follow. A residue of your attention remains stuck thinking about the original task. People experiencing attention residue after switching tasks are likely to demonstrate poor performance on the next task. This explains why the intensity of focus is critical. By working on a single task hard for a long time without switching, we can minimize the negative impact of attention residue, thus maximizing performance on this one single task. The phenomenon of attention residue also explains why multitasking is detrimental to productivity. Thus, to produce at your peak level, you need to work for extended periods with full concentration on a single task, free from distraction. Effectively, the type of work that optimizes your performance is deep work. A note about CEOs. Should CEOs do deep work? A good CEO is a hard-to-automate decision engine. They have built up unique perspective and experience which they leverage to continuously add value on inputs they are presented throughout the day, inputs such as meetings, emails, site visits, and so on. To ask a CEO to spend 4 hours thinking deeply about a problem is often a waste of what makes them valuable. Better for the CEO to hire 3 subordinates to think through the problem and then get them to bring their solutions for a final decision. Thus, deep work is not the only skill valuable in our economy, and it is possible to do well without fostering this ability. But the niches where this is advisable are increasingly rare. Chapter 2: Deep Work is Rare. If deep work is so valuable, why isn't everyone doing it? 3 business trends make it hard for us to go deep. First, open plan offices. Second, the rise of instant messaging, including apps like Slack which encourage real-time collaboration. And third, the push to maintain a social media presence, especially on Twitter. The benefits of serendipity, real-time collaboration, and enhanced exposure that these trends are meant to drive are, in reality, dwarfed by the decline in our ability to learn fast and produce a large volume of high-quality work, which going deep enables. In addition to these trends, we also find certain distracting behaviors embraced in the workplace. One such behavior is the culture of connectivity, where we are expected to respond to emails and messages quickly and at all times. Another distracting behavior is using frequently occurring meetings as a way to organize your day and drive focus on projects. Instead of advanced planning and thinking through what is required, we let the impending meetings each week force us to take some action on a given project and provide a visible sign of progress. Deep work thinking and planning in advance is hard. Shallow work fixing meetings and letting them schedule your day is far easier. The Busyness Proxy. As knowledge work makes more complex demands of the workforce, it becomes harder to measure the value of an individual's efforts. In the absence of such measures, in order for knowledge workers to demonstrate value, busyness, doing lots of stuff in a visible manner, has become a proxy for productivity. The Technopoly. Almost always, we celebrate any advances in technology as a positive. If it is high-tech, we begin to assume that it is good. Neil Postman, the late communication theorist, referred to this as a technopoly. Deep work is at a disadvantage in a technopoly because it builds on values like quality, craftsmanship, and mastery, values that are decidedly old-fashioned and non-technological. It is difficult to demonstrate the negative impact of our busyness and other related behaviors, such as excessive use of network tools or using meetings to schedule the day. Newport refers to this as a metrics black hole. In the absence of any metrics, and given how easy it is to persist with these behaviors, we tend to stick with them at the expense of deep work. All of this makes deep work increasingly rare in modern life, even as it is becoming increasingly valuable to succeed in modern life. This represents a classic market mismatch. If you cultivate this skill, you will thrive professionally. Chapter 3: Deep Work is Meaningful. Unlike craftsmen who tackle professional challenges that are easy to define but hard to execute, in the case of knowledge workers it can be hard to define exactly what a knowledge worker does and how it differs from another. It all seems to boil down to emails and PowerPoint. Further, craftsmen can derive considerable meaning and satisfaction from their manual deep work. Can knowledge workers obtain as much satisfaction from their work as craftsmen? Yes, says Newport. Knowledge workers can draw as much satisfaction from their deep work in the information economy as their craftsman counterparts do with their craft work. Newport explores 3 arguments to support this claim. The Neurological Argument. Newport suggests a theory propounded by Winifred Gallagher to support the neurological argument. The more focused we are on a deep endeavor, the less we notice smaller and less pleasant things that populate our lives. Our world is the outcome of what we pay attention to. Dedicating it to something profound and deep will create a world rich in meaning and importance. The more time we spend in a state of depth dedicated to important ideas and work, the greater the meaning and satisfaction you will associate with your working life. The psychological argument. Newport introduces the idea of flow, conceptualized by psychologist Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is a mental state where a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something hard and worthwhile. Csikszentmihalyi found that the more flow experiences in a subject's week, the higher was their life satisfaction and happiness. This was contrary to the then widely held notion that relaxation makes people happy. Deep work where you are so focused that you lose yourself in an activity is well suited to generate a flow state. And flow generates happiness. The philosophical argument. Newport builds on an argument introduced by philosophy professors Hubert Dreyfus and Sean Kelly, who write about how modern work is increasingly absent meaning, whereas craftsmanship had a deep connection with it. Deep work, says Newport, with its similarities to craftwork, can help extract meaning from your profession and imbue it with something sacred and purposeful, making your work a satisfying pursuit, and not a draining obligation. Newport uses a quote by Winifred Gallagher to sum up the argument of this chapter. "I'll live the focused life, because it's the best kind there is. A deep life is a good life, any way you look at it." Part 2, The Rules. In this section of the book, Newport lays down 4 rules that can help us do sustained deep work. Rule number 1 details how we can bridge the gap between a world which makes deep work difficult, with its open plan offices, pressure to use network tools, and a culture of shallow work, and your own aspiration to do deep work. How does one transform deep work from an aspiration into a regular and significant part of your daily schedule? Rules 2 through 4 will then help you get the most out of this deep work habit by presenting strategies for training your concentration ability and fighting back distractions. Let's explore each rule. Rule 1, work deeply. We can expect to be bombarded throughout the day with the desire to do anything but work deeply. Given that we have a finite amount of willpower that gets depleted as we use it, in an environment and culture that makes deep work difficult, we have to rely on a key motivating principle. We have to add smart routines and rituals to our working life that are designed to minimize the amount of our limited willpower necessary to transition into and maintain unbroken concentration. With this principle in mind, Newport lays down strategies that introduce rituals and routines to enable us to do deep work on a sustained basis. Decide your depth philosophy. There are broadly 4 approaches to systematically carving out time for deep work. Ad hoc approaches don't work because of limited willpower and attention residue. Be careful to choose an approach that fits your specific circumstances. The monastic approach. This approach involves cutting yourself off totally, all the time, while you focus on your work. No shallow obligations, including no email access. Famous exemplars include Donald Knuth and Neil Stephenson. This is ideal for novelists and artists whose work is discrete and individualized. The bimodal approach. With this approach, some periods of the year or month or week are allocated to deep work, and the rest for meeting shallow work obligations. Famous exemplars include Carl Jung and Adam Grant. This is for people who cannot cut themselves off completely from shallow obligations, such as academics and working professionals. The rhythmic approach. This involves fixed time for deep work through the day, such as 5 to 7 a.m. or at specific times during the week through calendaring. Maintain the chain as long as you can. This is ideal for working professionals. Fitness enthusiasts and writers can also use the chain approach. The journalistic approach. This approach involves taking time out whenever you find a free slot. You can choose to do this on a moment-to-moment basis, or like Newport does, plan it for a week in advance. Walter Isaacson is a famous exemplar. This approach can work for anyone really. Rely on rituals. Use rituals and set routines to minimize friction in your transition to depth. Such rituals include where you'll work and how long. It will be ideal if you can carve out a location just for deep work. Scheduling a specific time of the day in advance also works by taking away the need to use willpower. How you'll work once you start to work. These include do's and don'ts, no internet use, and so on, and even metrics by which you will track progress, such as number of words per hour, or visual indicators of progress like crosses on calendars. How you'll support your work. Coffee, music, a do not disturb board, anything such that you can sustain depth without interruption. Use grand gestures. These are tactics such as checking into a hotel to write a book. By making a radical change to your working environment, coupled with a significant investment of time and money, you signal to your brain the importance of this task. This reduces your brain's tendency to procrastinate and delivers an injection of energy. Bill Gates' think weeks are also a good example. Use 4DX principles to execute. Newport cites from a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, which describes 4 disciplines, abbreviated 4DX, to help companies successfully implement high-level strategies. He applies this framework to ensuring that he is able to execute the deep work strategy. The 4DX principles are: Discipline 1. Focus on the wildly important. Have a small number of really critical goals. This simplicity will help focus the organization's energy at sufficient intensity to ignite real results. Similarly, individuals should focus their deep work hours on a small number of ambitious outcomes. Have a specific goal that will return tangible and substantial professional benefits. This will in turn motivate you to persist with deep work. Discipline 2. Act on lead measures. Lead measures help us track the new behaviors that will drive success on the lag measures. In contrast, lag measures describe the thing that you are ultimately trying to improve. Lag measures come too late to change your behavior. For example, if lag measures are customer satisfaction scores, then giving free samples to customers is a lead measure. This lead measure can be easily acted upon. For individuals seeking to do deep work, time spent is the most important lead measure, and quality of output generated is the best lag measure. Focus on upping your time spent in the deep work state. Discipline 3. Keep a compelling scoreboard. This will help everyone in the team align around the progress and how they are doing on the lead measures. For an individual, the scoreboard should be a physical artifact that displays their performance on the current deep work hour count. Newport uses a tracker where circles indicate key milestones, such as solving a proof or completing a paper, corresponding to the hour it was achieved in. Discipline 4. Create a cadence of accountability. The final step to help maintain a focus on the lead measures is to put in place a rhythm of regular and frequent meetings. In this meeting, the scoreboard is confronted, specific actions are agreed, and previous actions and results are reviewed. This can be even a few minutes, but it must be regular for its effect to be felt. It is in this discipline that execution really happens. Plan for downtime. Regular and substantial freedom from professional obligations gives you access to downtime, and thus opportunity for unconscious deliberation. This gives your conscious brain a chance to rest and allows the unstructured decision-making process to take over and provide insights to complex problems and issues. Thus, paradoxically, greater downtime makes your deep work hours more productive. In addition, downtime also helps you recharge the energy needed to work deeply. Walking through nature is particularly useful, as it relies on undirected attention. To concentrate requires directed attention. This resource is finite. Exhaust it and you will have attention fatigue, making it harder for you to concentrate. Your capacity for deep work, the number of hours daily, is limited. Deliberate practice, as propounded by K. Anders Ericsson, states a limit of around 4 hours a day for experts. This is likely the limit for deep work too. If you plan your schedule well, you will end up doing most of your deep work during your workday, hitting the limits of your capacity for deep work. Use a shutdown ritual, which may take 15 to 30 minutes, which will include a look at what was done, what wasn't, and either executing actions for the incomplete ones then and there, or capturing a plan for the same, such that it will be revisited the next day. Only the confidence that you are done with work until the next day can convince your brain that it can downshift to the level where it can begin to recharge for the next day to follow. This overcomes the Zeigarnik effect, which describes the ability of incomplete tasks to dominate our attention. Hence, the shutdown ritual is critical to signal to your brain that you are done with all incomplete tasks till tomorrow. Evening downtime is particularly critical. Maintain an end to your workday. Once you get home, take a complete break from work, no emails, ideally no calls even. If you keep focusing on work when home, you are robbing your directed attention centers of the uninterrupted rest they need for restoration. Even if these work dashes consume a small amount of time, they prevent you from reaching the levels of relaxation in which attention restoration can occur. By trying to squeeze a little more work out of your evenings, you reduce your effectiveness the next day enough that you end up getting less done than if you had respected a shutdown. Rule 2. Embrace boredom. The ability to concentrate intensely is a skill that must be trained. It is akin to a mental muscle, and you need to continuously practice to keep it well conditioned. Much the same way that athletes must take care of their bodies outside of their training sessions, you'll struggle to achieve the deepest levels of concentration if you spend the rest of your time fleeing the slightest hint of boredom. Do not feel the urge to look at your smartphone every few minutes you are in a line waiting. To simply wait and be bored has become a novel experience in modern life, but from the perspective of concentration training, it is simply invaluable. If you give in to checking your smartphone every time you are bored, your brain will be so rewired for on-demand distraction that it will be incapable of real work. Hence, along with training to improve your ability to concentrate intensely, train to overcome your desire for distraction. Some of the strategies to achieve these twin goals are: schedule a break from focus. Schedule in advance when you will use the internet. It is not the use of a distracting service that reduces your brain's ability to focus, but it is instead the constant switching from low stimuli, high value to high stimuli, low value activities at the slightest hint of boredom or cognitive challenge, that weakens the mental muscles responsible for organizing the many sources vying for your attention. By segregating internet use and thereby distraction, you are minimizing the number of times you give in to distraction. By doing so, you let your attention-selecting muscles strengthen. Make sure that you do not use internet outside of these blocks. Even if you need some information from the internet to do some offline work, wait till you reach internet time. Otherwise, you will never develop the discipline required to regulate the use. Schedule internet usage at home as well as at work. You can keep the internet usage block as long as you like, such as on a weekend evening, but once you are offline, stick to it. It is not eliminating distracting behaviors that is the goal. It is eliminating the ability of distracting behaviors to hijack your attention that is the goal. Use Roosevelt dashes. Inspired by Teddy Roosevelt's brief but intense study periods, use these to get high-priority deep tasks done. Roosevelt dashes leverage artificial, abbreviated deadlines to help you systematically increase the level you can regularly achieve, providing, in some sense, interval training for the attention centers of your brain. Additionally, within the intensely constrained period of the dash, there is no scope for distraction. Meditate productively. Take a period in which you are occupied physically but not mentally walking, jogging, and so on, and focus your attention on a single, well-defined professional problem. This could be anything: a presentation to be made, an article to be written, a business strategy that needs to be honed. As in mindfulness meditation, you must bring your attention back to the problem at hand when it wanders or stalls. Plan for at least 2 to 3 sessions every week. You can even schedule this during your workday if you are mulling over a professional problem. You may require a dozen or so sessions before it yields results. Define what you are seeking to answer from the session. Be clear what it is that you are seeking. If it is regarding an article that you are writing, then do you want to use the session to build an opening paragraph or argument, or use it to arrive at the key points that you are seeking to elaborate on in the article? This will help you structure your thinking and help you arrive at concrete results from the session. Rule 3. Quit social media. Identify the core factors that determine success and happiness in your professional and personal life. Adopt a network tool such as Facebook or Twitter only if its positive impacts on these factors substantially outweigh its negative impacts. Newport illustrates this by asking if Michael Lewis should adopt Twitter. Lewis's goal is to craft well-written, narrative-driven stories that change the way we understand and see the world. The key activities that support his goal are researching patiently and deeply, and writing carefully and with purpose. Would using Twitter have a positive impact on these two activities, or detract from them? Very likely the latter. Similarly, we should look at the core activities that matter for us to achieve our goals. What are those 20% of activities that help us achieve 80% of our goals, and analyze if a specific network tool aids or impedes those 20% of activities. To find out if one really needs these services, you could try a variant of Ryan Nicodemus's packing party. Stop using social media for 30 days. Subsequently, after these 30 days, ask yourself 2 questions. 1. Would the last 30 days have been better if you had been using these services? 2. Did people care that I wasn't using these services? If the answer to both these questions is no, then quit them. If both are a yes, then return to these services. If only one is a yes, it is up to you to consider and take a decision. This rule picks on social media specifically because of all the different network tools. It can be particularly devastating on our quest to work deeper. They are addictive and extremely distracting, and are inimical to our efforts to build and strengthen our powers of concentration. They are particularly dangerous for people such as writers and computer programmers whose livelihood depends considerably on deep work. Newport also recommends that we desist from spending time on sites such as BuzzFeed, Reddit, HuffPost, Business Insider, and so on, to passively fill our leisure time. These are enemies of depth and impediments to building focus, in much the same way as social media. Rather, he says, focus on structure, hobbies, or a carefully planned reading list to fill your leisure time. Figure out in advance what you are going to do with your evenings and weekends before they begin. If you give your mind something meaningful to do throughout all your waking hours, you'll end the day more fulfilled and begin the next one more relaxed than if you instead allow your mind to bathe for hours in semi-conscious and unstructured web surfing. Rule 4. Drain the shallows. Schedule every minute of your day by using time blocking. Divide your day into 2 columns. In the left column, dedicate 2 lines to each hour of the day and then divide that time into blocks labeled with specific assignments. In the right column, add explanatory notes for these blocks where needed. A key advantage of this scheduling system is that you can batch tasks together into a specific synergistic time block, such as emailing, printing, ticket booking, and so on. When you are done scheduling, every minute should be part of a block. You have given every minute of your workday a job. Leave some extra room next to your time blocks. This allows you to make corrections as needed if the day unfolds in an unexpected way. Don't despair if you have to rewrite your schedule multiple times. Your goal is not so much to stick to a specific schedule as it is to maintain a thoughtful say in what you're doing with your schedule going forward, even if these decisions are reworked again and again as the day unfolds. If you are not sure about the time taken to finish an activity, then use an overflow block, an additional block that has a split use. One for the overflowing job, and second, if you finish the overflowing job, one where you can do something non-urgent like calling someone or reading an article. Feel free to use lots of overflow blocks if your schedule is typically unpredictable. Fixed schedule productivity. Newport also introduces the concept of fixed schedule productivity, not working beyond a certain time, in his case 5:30 p.m., and then working backwards to find productivity strategies that allow him to satisfy this constraint. Because time is limited each day, you are forced to cull a substantial amount of shallow work. Secondly, the limits to your time necessitate careful thinking about your organizational habits, leading to greater value versus longer but less organized schedules. Fixed schedule productivity is thus a meta-habit that is simple to adopt but broad in its impact. If you have to choose just one behavior that reorients your focus towards the deep, this one should be high on your list of possibilities. In addition, Newport lists some hacks to eliminating shallow work. Be hard to reach. Don't display your email publicly. Make people who send you email do more work. Use sender filters. In return, do more work when you send emails to close the loop faster. If an email requests a meeting and you want to meet, then list all the times and dates when you can meet to ensure one can be picked, instead of pinging back and forth. This will mean an extra 2 to 3 minutes per mail, but will save you 1 to 2 minutes on every ping back and forth. Don't respond to an email request if it doesn't fit with your schedule or interests. It is ambiguous or makes it hard for you to generate a reasonable response. Nothing bad will happen if you don't respond, and nothing really good will happen if you did. In the context of the last point, some people will get upset with your non-responsiveness, but as Tim Ferriss says, develop the habit of letting small bad things happen. If you don't, you will never find time for the life-changing big things. By sending fewer emails and ignoring ones that aren't easy to process, you will significantly weaken the grip your inbox maintains over your time and attention. Conclusion. A commitment to deep work is a pragmatic recognition that the ability to concentrate is a skill that gets valuable things done. The deep life is not for everybody. It requires hard work and drastic changes to your habits. For many, there is artificial comfort in the busyness of rapid email messaging and social media posturing, while the deep life demands that you leave many of these things behind. There is also an uneasiness that surrounds any effort to produce the best things you are capable of producing, as this forces you to confront the possibility that your best is not that good. But if you are willing to sidestep these comforts and fears, and strive to deploy your mind to its fullest capacity to create things that matter, then you will discover, as others have, that depth generates a life rich with productivity and meaning. Thank you for listening to this summary of Deep Work by Cal Newport.